The May 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Public Safety Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Burgess. Here. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Present. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty. Here. Mr. Delahanty is present. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Chairman Dondorfer.
Here.
Chairman Dondorfer is present. Ms. Hugh Smith. Here. Ms. Hugh Smith is present. Mr. Milne. Here. Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Morris. Here. Mr. Morris is present. And Ms. Vecchio is excused.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
We have several speakers signed up. We will call you up 2 at a time. You'll have 2 minutes to address the committee, and when the buzzer beeps, if you can kindly conclude your remarks. Our first 2 speakers are Mona Taha and Levine Ford.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Levine Ford, president of the Keeler Park Tenant Association. I am representing all 2,125 tenants. We have 526 units, 30 ranch style, 3 bedrooms, 182 bedrooms, and the rest are 1 bedrooms. This includes seniors and families. I am here this evening to support the increase in the Monroe County Sheriff deputies. Adults at Keeler Park are afraid to walk to Walmart, which is right across the street at Hudson and Seneca Manor Drive. Why? Fear of being a victim of crime. To walk their grandchildren down Seneca Manor Drive while visiting grandma and grandpa. I have seen sometimes the Monroe County Police in our area. Tenants have asked, what are the politicians doing, Levine, doing about more police and crime and less crime? I don't have an answer for them. However, all of you do have the answer. It's just a matter of time before it touches you or someone you know. We need more Monroe County deputies. This is a public safety issue, which is a human rights issue in a civilized society. In closing, the only crime that will take place tonight is not voting yes for the increase. May you have the wisdom of the Lord, blessings and health and safety to all of you from Levine and our 2,125 souls at Keeler Park Apartments. Thank you.
Our next 2 speakers are Diane Stengel and Pastor Donald Stevens.
My name is Diane Stengel, and I speak for myself. Misinformation and fear-mongering are causing some people to think that adding more police will reduce crime. They propose increasing the MCSO budget by $7.3 million and adding 41 new officers. Click and Tabarak's study clearly demonstrates that more police do not reduce violent crimes and theft. Enforcement steers too many people into repeated incarceration, destroying their lives and those of their families. Incarceration does not provide the tools needed to transform to a stable and successful life, so it's a huge waste of resources and humanity. If you are really interested in public safety, it's more practical and effective to follow facts and studies. Approve funding for programs that are proven to reduce crime and increase public safety by providing every person these basic needs: safe and affordable housing, healthcare, counseling, educational programs, effective drug treatment, healthy food, well-paying jobs, transportation, childcare, recreation. Please amend this budget to take resources from an ineffective criminal justice process and put them into the programs and processes proven to reduce the causes of crime. MCSO is also proposing the Regional Investigative Operations Center, RIOC, but without providing sufficient details such as the mission, staffing, location, and budget. What exactly is the problem that this new agency will solve? Until all these details are provided to the public for feedback, this proposal should not be funded. That's just common sense. Let's spend county resources on things proven to work and bring everyone to a place of safety and well-being so we can all thrive together. Thank you.
Good evening. Certainly, as pastor of Helping Hand Missionary Baptist Church at 703 Joseph Avenue in the city of Rochester, I definitely need to see more law enforcement. I have parishioners that live right next door that will not come to church because they're scared. They can't even come sit on their porch anymore because of what's going on. So I see the Monroe County Sheriff's Office always around the church. And they don't necessarily have to be there, but they're responsible when they are there. And I love that. And certainly my role at VP Supply, as you see the shirt, I have a job too. I'm all over the county and in the city, and I see their cars everywhere helping out where they don't have to be. Now, Monroe County Sheriff's Office must be able to ensure the towns that they're responsible to police and are adequately staffed before they extend themselves to assist other agencies. With no significant increase to their staffing in recent history, now is the time to increase staff and resources to Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Monroe County Sheriff's Office has become known for fostering partnerships with all area police agency and stakeholders. I support their concept of establishing a central location with permanent infrastructure for all police agencies to share information and investigate crime patterns. I live in Greece. I want to know what's going on in the city, the patterns. I want to know what's going on in Monroe County. I want to know what is happening and what can be done about it. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Chris Hill and Mike Harradine.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Chris Hill, and I'm a vice president of I. Gordon Corporation. We have offices and managed properties here in the city of Rochester and throughout Monroe County. Any given day, I am in the city and in the county. And I see MCSO cars throughout the city of Rochester. It's not their primary responsibility, but they're here. They're backstopping RPD, and I appreciate them for doing that. Given the current crime rates and complexity of investigations, I support increased staffing for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. I would like to see an increased presence throughout Monroe County of law enforcement. Again, as the last speaker has stated, there has not been an increase in staffing in recent history, and we do need more law officers here in Monroe County. As a member of the Monroe County Sheriff's Foundation, I'm familiar with the importance of officer wellness. Increased staffing is paramount to ensure cops are taking care of themselves and having the necessary time off. The Regional Investigative Operations Center is an excellent idea. Allowing for police agencies to collaborate on crime patterns makes sense and will ultimately address crime quickly and more efficiently and effectively. Thank you very much.
Our next two speakers are Amelia Aquino and Gino Brown.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gino Bond. I'm a resident of Rochester, New York. I've resided here all of my life. Currently employed in the city of Rochester. I've been a master barber since I was 15 years old, and I've lived thoroughly throughout this community. One thing I would like to say is that I appreciate the Rochester police efforts and the things that they do and have done in a community at this point in time. But I do not believe that more police is the solution to the problem that we have right now. Statistics just show that the sheriff's office received $14 million increase just last year. An additional $7 million towards more police officers doesn't seem to cure the problem. I believe in reform. I believe that we need more programs to reform individuals, our youth that we have right now who are misguided, who needs more training, skills, employment. Those type of things will help to get them into activities to deter them from such criminal activities. Right now, we got a bunch of these youths and stuff. They're joyriding, they're still in these cars, and it's just because of their absent-mindedness. You know, more police officers is not really going to cure that type of problem. More police officers is going to agitate it. You know, it's not that police officers are not bad. I believe that police officer and policing is good, but proper training with them is more effective. So I just want to state that in my words, I believe in reform, and I believe that reform, training, education, and building better respect for authority in the people out here today will help to amend some of the problems that we have right now. Thank you for your time.
Our next two speakers are Sebastian Laver and Tanya Stevens. Our next two speakers are Stanley Martin and Nathaniel Baldo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley Martin. I'm a Rochester City Council member at large, so I represent constituents in the city of Rochester. I'm here to strongly oppose this increase because I'm sick and tired of our community and our leaders especially trying to police their way out of social problems. Instead of investing in education, in mental health, in all the social programs that prove that crime can be reduced when they're invested in, we continue to pour money into policing. Just a year ago, the Sheriff's Department got a $14 million increase from Adam Bello. This $7.3 million additional increase is truly unprecedented. It continues to prioritize punishment over reform. It continues to prioritize incarceration over second chances, education, and pouring into our youth and community. I'm speaking on behalf of my community. They do not support this investment, and instead they want us to invest in housing, again, mental health care, and things that are proven scientifically with evidence-based information that actually keeps people safe. So to the committee members, I'm asking you to reconsider moving this through, possibly hold to get more community input. $7.3 million going to police and not into housing and other programs is quite significant, and I'm asking for more time at the very least to hear from community members. Thank you. Vote no, or at the very least hold. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nathaniel Baldo. I'm a Rochester resident, just here representing myself. Just wanted to echo the words that Councilmember Martin so eloquently stated just a moment ago. I am urging members of the legislature to vote no, or at least hold off on this funding increase. I've been really concerned with recent trends that I've seen in Rochester and across Monroe County with rising rates. Rising costs of housing, food, healthcare, and in particular, I also know earlier today, Mr. Adam Bello declared issued a state of emergency with regards to migrants coming in to Monroe County. So, I think this is a great opportunity and a good reflection point to recognize that we should be investing these resources elsewhere other than the sheriff's department. Thank you very much.
Our next two speakers are Raven Johnson and Halima Ali.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Halima Ali. I'm representing myself. I am a local of Rochester. I've been here pretty much my entire life, gone through all of my schooling here, starting from elementary all the way up until now. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Rochester, and I do a lot of community work and a lot of outreach. I can tell you two things unequivocally. The first thing is that our community is in scarcity. Our community is in need, and our community has needs that aren't being met. There is a lack of affordable housing. There's a lack of affordable food. There's a lack of proper educational programs, job training programs. There's scarcity. And the second thing that I can tell you unequivocally is that scarcity will always lead to crime. Scarcity will always lead to crime, because if someone does not have their basic needs met, they will be forced to resort to crime to steal food from the grocery store. They will be forced to resort to crime to steal a car because they have no way to get their kids to school. It's just proven. And there are studies that will show you time and time again, scarcity will lead to crime. And so if the issue is increased crime in our neighborhoods, we should try something else. We've tried increasing the police budget. Just last year, again, as many people have already mentioned, there was a $14 million increase to the sheriff's office. And we haven't seen the effects that you were hoping to see. We haven't seen the crime go down, right? So to continue trying the same thing and expecting different results is it's not making sense. I think it's time we take a look at the root causes of crime. We try giving people affordable housing. We try giving them food. We try giving them education, and we see what happens then. And you will find, like studies have shown and statistics have shown, that this will lead to better outcomes for our community. Our community will undoubtedly be safer when our children are educated, their parents have affordable housing, and there's educational programs for everyone. So I urge you to please vote no on this proposal. Please hold off on the increase, as you have been told to do so by other members again, and just reconsider what else our community could use outside of policing. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Majid Dunson and Ken Marvel.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Majid Dunson, and I'm a peer advocate. I'm here to ask y'all to vote no, or at least abstain from the police increase. I come from a community where they wind up locking every playground within the city district. So the kids, I couldn't even take my kids across the street so they could swing on the swings and stuff. Like, they have no place whatsoever around it. I'm sick and tired of them sitting back, building gates around the city to keep us out and cages around my city to keep us in. Never once have they ever thought to foster relationships between police within the neighborhood, so on and so forth. I grew up going to Powell, I had some very strong mentors within my community that wind up affording me opportunities for me to be able to go out, experience, and gain things that a lot of people within these neighborhoods never have an opportunity to ever get. I know for a fact, every single one of you that's up in here right now, the thing that got y'all to where y'all are opportunities. And what you're trying to do is sit back and take all dreams away. That's not right. I was sitting back speaking to excuse me. I was sitting back and I was speaking to Charles Murray, He was trying to sit back and he would love to be able to work with the youth out here in Rochester. Like, there's nothing for him. There's nothing for our children or anything else like that. How in the world can we have a public safety without the kids having anything? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Ken Marveld. I'm here to express support for the Regional Investigative Operations Center, a proposal that I believe would make our community safer. Rochester's in the midst of an unprecedented crime and violence. Our urban core makes headlines as it outpaced Chicago for murders per capita. Violent crimes and those involving illegal firearms have skyrocketed. Larceny, car thefts, and break-ins are out of control. During this period of increased chaos, I appreciate the work being done by all of our law enforcement agencies, including the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. While the city of Rochester is obviously outside of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office domain, I understand the sheriff's deputies are invaluable in supplementing and complementing the RPD. The Sheriff's Office must be afforded every tool necessary to protect their territory, including a regional investigative operations center. With the complexity of criminal investigations in today's world, it is vital that we offer our law enforcement agencies access to the tools, and this proposal would make that available. I'm certain there are reasons to oppose this measure, and I can appreciate the variables that you, as legislators, must consider when weighing this out. As you weigh your decisions, I want to share with you an expression that I've come to embrace recently in my life. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Think about that. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. This is a good proposal, and I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Mallory Samanski and Rachel Crawford.
Thank you. I'm Mallory Samanski, a Rochester city resident. I'm a historian and I study police violence in Rochester. I know it can seem politically expedient right now to do something about crime in Monroe County. News media exaggerates the element of danger, so we click on their headlines and we clutch our pearls and then we fear our neighbors. Law enforcement capitalizes on that fear, and there's a long history of police PR teams portraying police as heroes, saviors, and protectors in the so-called war on crime. Then they ask us to pay more money for more staff, more computers, newer cruisers, and promise only then could they finally keep us safe. We know this is a lie. Despite the $14 million increase to the sheriff's office last year and the steady increases in RPD funding in the last decade, we have not become any safer. That's because, as scholars like Elizabeth Hinton have shown, police aggravate Black and brown neighborhoods. They over-police and they surveil people, especially working class and poor folks. In fact, we know communities become more dangerous precisely because police are present. Furthermore, police in Monroe County kill us. They killed Denise Hawkins, Alicia McCullers, Tyshawn Jones, Mark Gaskill, Daniel Prude, Timothy Flowers, so many others. Look, I sympathize with elected officials who are pressured to take action to keep their constituents safe. It can be easy and probably even popular for you to just chuck a bunch of money at the police and expect maybe this time they'll keep us safe. But unless you all make different choices, history will repeat itself. More police power in Monroe County will mean more danger for our people. We know what keeps us safe. My friends have said it: affordable housing, excellent education, safe recreation, dignified healthcare, nutrition. Please vote no on this proposal. Support people, not the police.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel, and I am the mother of a Rochester City School District teenager. I'm a small business owner, and I also graduated from the University of Rochester. I'm a very active member of this community, and I love this community very much. There hasn't been one person who's come up here today who has denied that there is an issue with violence. What we seem to not be understanding or in agreement about is where it's coming from and how we can remediate it. So I think that what a lot of us are trying to explain tonight is that we've increased this budget before for a greater police presence. It does aggravate, it does escalate crime, it does not help. Unarmed citizens of ours have been murdered by RPD, and what we do need, as we've said over and over again today, is food, housing, childcare, job training, mental health care. I am a single woman who walks around, in the street, and I do worry about my own safety, but I do not feel safer when I see a police officer. I can tell you that for sure. So if we can actually take care of our community and give us the resources that neighboring communities have that make their communities safer and better, that their children get to have, that their neighbors get to have, then I think we'd be on a much better path forward instead of criminalizing the poor and terrorizing our communities most of the time. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Arsenic Gutnik, and we're going to cycle around anybody that may have missed. So Mona Taha.
Good afternoon. My name is Arsenic Gutnik, and over the last over a decade, I've lived in Monroe County, both in the city of Rochester and in the suburbs. And I've also gone to city schools and I've gone to suburban schools. So I've really covered, had different experiences in Monroe County across different areas. And I just wanted to say, what makes me feel safe, and what really makes me feel safe is seeing my close ones, my family, my friends have secure jobs, have access to mental health, have access to health, have access to good education, have secure housing. And when they don't have that, that's when I feel unsafe, because I'm afraid for what could happen to them. And the police is just not part of that equation. When I think of what makes me feel safe, it's having security for myself, in terms of good living conditions for myself and for people around me, the people closest to me. So to me, the question of increasing the budget of the sheriff's office really begs the question of what problem is it solving? So I urge you to vote no on increasing the sheriff's budget and hiring more sheriff's deputies. I think that money could be much better spent going into healthcare needs. It's difficult to find a healthcare provider. It's difficult to find a mental health provider. Many people are working sub-minimal wage or working jobs that are not paying a living wage, and we need jobs that really pay a living wage. The cost of housing has been skyrocketing in this area. That needs to be addressed, and all of that money could really go into all of those resources that would make me feel safe in this community.
Next two speakers are Mike Harradine and Amelia Aquino.
Ooh, I'm nervous. Okay. Hello, I'm Amelia. I am a person who lives in Rochester. I understand that police want more police because they think that they don't have enough police and that they don't have enough gadgets and stuff. But teachers need more teachers. And putting that money into school is way more helpful than having teens be afraid of more police. Because teachers have to deal with 30 teenagers who do not want to be there. So having 2 teachers there One who can break up the fights going on, and then the other who can actually teach the kids who want to teach would be so much better for the kids who are stealing these cars because they literally have nothing else to do. Like he said, there's not enough playgrounds. Literally, if I want to live somewhere here, it's north, like Cobb's Hill area, because there's Pinnacle Hill and Cobb's Hill. There's trees there. I have things to do. There's literally no parks in 19th Ward. So why would I live there? There's nothing to do. And putting the money into the community would obviously help the community. Putting the money into police would just help the police. If you go to any school, none of the kids like police. They're afraid of police because police make us afraid of police. I literally was pepper sprayed right outside this building 2 years ago. So I'm really not for more police because I really have not seen the scientific evidence that they will help. I have seen that more activities for children will help them grow, will keep them out of prisons, because if you literally see any of these kids, they're just going to go straight into prison. So how is the police going to help that? They're literally not. I really think that if you want to help the community, then get people off the streets. I think that affordable housing is the reason why we're so poor, is because I can't afford to do anything else. Thank you.
The next two speakers are Sebastian Labor and Tanya Stevens.
Hi, I'm Tanya Stevens, Rochester resident, born and raised, graduated from the district, mother of 2 Black children that live in the city. The thing is, I have to pay for my kids to go to school because they're not giving enough money to the district for the district to actually be able to give them the programs they need. Also have to pay for my kids to go to camp because there's not enough programs that exist in the city or in the counties for them to actually learn how to swim and do the things that I need them to do. I'm afraid for my children, most times not for the people that live around, but because I don't want my son just to be, a big Black kid walking down the street and something happens. Then I have to have those conversations about, who's unsafe and why. Enough programs just don't exist in the city. Kids need to learn how to swim. Kids need to learn how to drive. Kids need to learn how to interact with each other. Someone has to come in and teach people how to solve problems, and because we don't have anyone teaching mediation and those sorts of things, we continue to have the problems we have, and they're all generally crimes of poverty. So we should be creating things that solve poverty, not just police people. And if you look at the houses that like police officers live in and the lives that their children live, and we compare those lives to the children that live in the city and their schools are underfunded and they don't have the same programs, they're not living the same lives. So we should be putting those funds towards the people that actually need the help, so we stop seeing the crimes that we see every day and people can actually live in community and enjoy the communities we live in. I plant gardens around the city all the time. Why? Because I want to live in a beautiful neighborhood, and I don't feel like I should have to go super far away to have that. I feel like I should have that in the community I live in. I should feel, and I do feel safe to walk down the street because I have a relationship with the people in my neighborhood. And I know that we keep ourselves safe. And once we find a way to actually solve the problems, and it's not like the answers don't exist, they're actively out here. We can actively do the research to see how we can house the unhoused. We can solve these problems. So I hope we put the money towards that and vote no. Thank you. Have a great night.
Our last registered speaker is Levine Johnson.
Is there anyone present who is not signed up to speak who would like to address the committee at this time?
Can you state your names before you speak so I can?
Yeah, my name is Shea Herbert. Hi, my name is Shea. I am a resident. I've lived here for most of my life. I went to East High School. I used to go to Humboldt. When they were funded, they had money for us to do things, but the rec centers don't got much anymore because why? We keep giving it to the police. And what do we have? I can't say anything that no one who got up here before me hasn't said already. Police don't make me feel safe. When I'm harmed, do I look at the police? No, I shy away. I go to my neighbors, my community members, my community family that I built because we have shown up for each other. And unlike the police, we have came up with resolutions for each other. Being from the inner city, I have lived in the city of Rochester. I have lived in Greece. I have lived out in Spencerport. And my lives in those neighborhoods were completely different. I was treated completely different based on where I lived. Now I live downtown. If I still lived off of Hudson, my interactions and how people view me wouldn't be the same. But because I have the things I have now, and because I'm a part of the clubs I am in now, because I know about them now, my interactions sometimes with police are different versus the people who are still stuck on Hudson Avenue, who don't know about how to get a public library card, who don't know where to take their kids when they don't have something to do after school. That's not fair to them. It shouldn't be this segregated life. And the reason it's so segregated is because you keep giving money to police who don't solve problems, who don't get to know the people they're policing, who go home to the suburbs and live their lives completely separate without caring about the people they are policing, over policing every single day. And it's not fair. Stop giving money and stop funding things that don't resolve the issue. Housing, food, jobs, programs, parks, clean air. Those are all the things that you have in Greece and in Spencerport and Fairport, free libraries, free programs, all these things you have. What you don't have in Fairport is police roaming the streets all dang day. So stop giving them to us. We don't need them in the city. We need the same programs, the same after school things, the same libraries, the same events, the same people coming in and opening up opportunities to our children that they have in the suburbs. No to the whatever this is, because I don't understand. Just no more police. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christine Noble. I'm on the Council for Metro Justice. Metro Justice has supported defunding the police for years. Law enforcement in this country has always been a means to enforce the status quo and to attack the disenfranchised, especially our Black and Brown communities. This has become increasingly clear over the last few years as our elected employees around the nation turn a blind eye to the murder of our neighbors by those who are allegedly there to protect us. The existing budget for the Monroe County Sheriff's Department is already $140 million. The District Attorney's Office receives $18 million, while the RPD has over $90 million. Meanwhile, the Public Defender's Office has to face that, not to mention all the other local police department budgets, on just over $8.5 million a year. This sends a disturbing message about where our politicians' priorities sit. We do not have money for our schools, but we do to police the youth of our poorest neighborhoods. We do not have money for keeping the roof over our poorest neighbors' heads, but we do to break up the camps of unhoused. We do not have the money to fund investigating an actual affordable public utility, but we have it to harass children with no bell on their bikes. One can be forgiven for believing the people that we as a community to hire to work in this building have a vested interest in the abuse of the most vulnerable among us. Increasing the Sheriff's Department's budget is an insult to every person, every group that goes without the funds simply to survive. It is an insult to those communities who have suffered at the hands of law enforcement agencies that face no accountability. This cannot stand and it will not stand. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jalil Multikim. I'm Special Project Coordinator for our Citizen Action of New York, our Rochester chapter. One of the things I need to impress upon everyone here, particularly those of you of Caucasian complexion, right, is this. Why in our community, we have to give our children the talk? Why is that? Why do we have to give our young men and women, before they leave the house, the talk? What is the talk? Let's understand something here. There's a conflict, there's a drama, there's issues between the Black community and law enforcement. We know that, we recognize that. Do we acknowledge it in terms of our policies and developing our policies in terms of how do we improve the conditions in our community? We don't, right? Another issue. Rochester is the third worst poverty city in the country. The third worst in the country. But we also know that crime or poverty is the progenitor for crime. So you want to address the issues of crime, right? The issues of safety, you have to address the issues of poverty. You have to. I mean, these are logical, rational understanding of how our money is being misappropriated to the benefit of those who are least likely or least need of that benefit. So for us and for our community, it's extremely important that we understand that we need to address the issues of poverty, right? The money that you're going to allocate to sheriff departments, to the police department, if you were to allocate that money into our communities, right, for housing, for clothing, for healthcare, right, for schooling, how would that address the issues of crime and punishment in our community? It mitigates against it, right? It serves the interest that we really need to have in our community. Unfortunately, those of you who are not in our community, who do not have to live in our community, but only ride through our community, addressing the issues of the aftermath of the conditions of poverty, right, do not recognize the fact that how you're harming our community, traumatizing our community by this overhanded, zealous surveillance of the Black and brown community. You don't think we understand that? You don't think we see that? You don't think we feel that? We have to give our people the talk to protect them, and we should not have to do so. The white kids don't, the white families, they don't tell their children, give them to talk before they leave the house. Why is that? Come on, let's get down to the bottom of the issues, right? So our concern is the issues of how do we allocate funding to mitigate against the necessity for having this kind of over surveillance of our community. That's the issue. And if we use the money, allocate it in where it needs to go into our communities, we won't have to need the necessity to have this over surveillance of our community by law enforcement. That's how you address the real issues. Right? Not going around it, not skirting around the issues, addressing the real issues of poverty in this city. The third worst in the country. Someone dropped the ball, right? Now we got to figure out a way how to pick it back up. Thank you.
My name is Dwayne Ivory. I'm one of the 13 Ford, along with Jalil, who just finished speaking. I just wanted to add on that a while back, there was a program, I think, called Manpower. I think they had something to do with it. I'm not sure if that was the exact name of the program, but there was this program where it gave out incentives to bring people in to have something to do, learn a skill, learn management, stuff like that there. I'm just want to know whatever happened to that. And can we bring that back? I think that would take down the police presence, because what are they going to be watching? People doing electrical, plumbing, heating. So that's all I just wanted. I just wonder what happened to that program. I think that program would be a lot in contributing to bringing down the police presence and putting money where it needs to be put. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Forgione, and I'm a resident of the city. I live in the East Main Culver area. On Saturday, I attended an event at which students in the 6th through 12th grade received awards for writing essays on how violence impacted their lives. As I listened to the presentation of awards and the Rapster and the Steppers, I wondered how the Rochester Investigative Outreach Operations Center would impact their lives. Would it provide nighttime childcare for parents and grandparents who work in the evening? Would it provide additional counselors at school? Would it provide more instruction in restorative practices? Would it help kids be invested in their community? Would it provide more after-school programs like Mr. Rick's, whose Steppers gave out a knockout performance on Saturday? Would it extend hours of service and program options to kids when out of school? Would it provide more preventive slots to help struggling families? The answer in my mind is no. When are we going to look at issues of safety in a different way? When are we going to recognize more officers aren't the answer? More is just an illusion of safety. We have lots of data that shows that. If you want to have an impact on safety in this community, why don't you ask those kids who wrote those essays? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barbara Green. I'm speaking for myself, although I've been a member of ROCAC since 2014. I am a retired Army Nurse Corps officer and spent 24 years in the Army, and came back here in the year 2000 to a community that I was appalled with. I almost immediately became involved with the House of Mercy, driving people to parole visits, taking them to appointments, stopping to get something to eat and having to go in to make sure that the Black or brown woman was not being discriminated against in lines or whatever. I was just surprised that that had happened in this community, because I was here for the race riots in '67. We were kept outside of the city, and we were a racially mixed group. And I never forgot how frightened the Black girls that were with me were when they were watching the TV and seeing rocks going through the windows in the shops and all of that. I went in the Army a long time ago, and I was there during the days that young men were told either go to jail or go in the Army. And I can't tell you how many of those young people became very successful in the Army and would have been compromised by not having that opportunity. When I came home, my nephew went to take the oath to come into the Army. There were about 10 people across the front of the room at the Armed Services Day luncheon, not one Black boy. I couldn't believe it, and I said, "Where are they?" "Well, you can't come in the Army if you have a felony." And then I started thinking, oh, but I'm not convinced anymore that young men who have felonies are necessarily guilty, and they're lacking that opportunity. The problem here in Rochester is racism, and the underlying issues that are causing homelessness, poverty, need to be addressed. Mental health. I'm a nurse, my God. So I support all of the things that were said earlier today. I read a lot. I read a lot. If you haven't read the book, Stop the Bleeding, it provides all of the demographics about crime and how they focus about certain areas. And I think our area is North Clinton, but the solution is in there. And that's collaboration of people in the community to include the youth.
Hello, I'm Bishop David Singleton, Senior Pastor of Ark of Jesus Ministries, CEO of Celebration of Life Community, retired firefighter. Lived in this city now for over 60 years. And I lived through the riots. I was in Hanover Houses when the riots took place. I heard the governor speak, and when she gave her report of her budget, I wondered, where is the money for the kids? Where's the money for the kids? I'm not anti-law enforcement. I'm for our community, period. Everybody in it. And I believe there's some things we could do to bring better relationships between law enforcement and the community. I have a tutoring program that's now 15 years old, and I believe having some of our deputies do tutoring once a week, maybe only for an hour or so, but building relationship. You have an up and coming generation. We can start a healing process that will give us great dividends and benefits down the line, but we got to start early. And I believe if we start with our kids, our younger kids, then we probably won't have some of the problems we see when we get to middle school and high school. Because the research shows that whenever a child has a valued relationship with an adult outside of their parent, the chances of their success goes off the chart. And I've had sheriff deputies, police officers, chiefs of the fire department and firefighters, along with attorneys and others who tutor little kids. And I would like us to consider some additional ways to approach the change. So it's not just policing. It's already been shared about the research on policing. And again, I'm not anti-police, but let's go with things that work. Let's go with things that are effective if we really want change. The old adage is, the epitome of stupidity is to do the same thing and expect different results. And so let's change the approach a bit. Let's be willing to try something new. As far as I'm concerned, Rochester is a leader city. And I believe if we can make some things work here, we'll model that it can work other places around the country. But we have to have the will to do something different and to go into the vast expanse of the unknown and the unfamiliar. But I believe the rewards can be far beyond what we expect at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone that came in and spoke today. At this time, I will give the floor to Pat Gauche, Senior Planner for Monroe County Planning and Development for the 2024-2029 Capital Improvement Program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You should all have a copy of the recommended 2024-2029 CIP. This report reflects the culmination of an 11-month process beginning in late summer with departments proposing a 6-year funding plan for capital projects. A committee reviews the proposed projects and requires changes based on project priority and fiscal constraints on the program. After review by the county executive, the CIP is submitted to the county planning board. The planning board reviews the CIP, holds a public hearing, and sets priorities for the capital budget year, which is the first year of the CIP, or 2024 in this case. The planning board returns the draft CIP to the county executive, who then submits the recommended CIP to your honorable body. At the June meeting of the legislature, you will set a public hearing for July and then, upon your favorable review, vote to adopt the plan. There are no funding approvals associated with taking action on this referral. 2 sections of the CIP are pertinent to the committee: public safety and the sheriff's office. Information about the Department of Public Safety's 6-year program begins on page 85. There are 13 projects in this program. The first 3 projects in the program will be funded by county cash from the operating budget. No borrowing is involved. The public safety program accounts for just over 4.3% of the total capital program. The sheriff's program begins on page 93. There are 9 projects in the sheriff's program. 1 new project is introduced in 2029, Jail Records Management System. The sheriff's program accounts for 5.9% of the total capital program. I'll be happy to take questions when you get to this item on your agenda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gauche. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the March 28th, 2023 meeting minutes before you. It will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. Next item on the agenda is new business, Mr. Clerk.
Referral number 23-0144, adopt 2024 to 2029 capital improvement program.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0146, authorized contracts with Bergman Associates, architects, engineers, landscape architects, and surveyors, Erdman Anthony Associates, and Labella Associates for Monroe County Sheriff's Office architectural and engineering term services.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Hugh Smith.
Chairman, through you to the administration, just to clarify, this is for a contract for Bergman to do design for work to yet be determined. Is that correct? Or do we know what projects we want them to work on?
Through the chair, that is correct. This is for projects that come up on any given day basis, nothing that's been specifically identified at this particular point.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Just any examples? You have an aggregate amount not to exceed $300,000, so small scale projects. What type of projects might these be?
Through the chair, so an example would be in front of the public safety building, there's a pump station. It's called a mainframe pump station. If we need to replace a pump, we would hire an engineer to evaluate what the pumping rate would be and then execute a contract to replace that pump. We'd also look at potential areas of the zone A, B, and C areas where the sheriff is occupied if we had to do any site work around those particular areas. The Marine unit may have upgrades that need to be done to buildings where they house their marine devices. And then also the horse barn may have to have some upgrades. So we'll utilize these contracts to undertake that work.
Thank you, sir. I yield the floor.
If I could just, before you yield the floor, just utilize the microphones, please. They're having a hard time hearing everybody at home.
Through the chair, could you repeat the question, please?
Were there any other responses to this RFP? I don't even, this doesn't even sound on.
We heard that come through.
Yes, through the chair, there were 14 firms that expressed an interest, and we selected 3 to give us a variety of expertise that the firms could bring to the projects.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0163, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the District Attorney's Office for the Non-Fatal Shooting Initiative.
Moved by Legislator Morris, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Legislator Morris, you have the floor.
Through the chair, Dawn Staub, administrative for the District Attorney's Office. Percentage, no, I can quantify it by saying just about all of them. And as a solid number, from 2020 to 2022, we had 149 cases pass through our office.
Follow up if this can be obtained. Do you happen to know now, or could you find if this is an increase from past years?
Through the chair, I can get you a hard number, but I believe this is an increase year over year.
Thank you. No further questions.
Legislator, you have the floor.
More about this program, what's working, what isn't working, what the strategy is.
Through the chair, this is a pilot program. Our office, the District Attorney's Office, as well as RPD were requested by the Division of Criminal Justice Services to take a look at the number of bullet-to-body shooting incidents and possibly model a program here after 2 other pilot programs that they funded. So basically, the Division of Criminal Justice Services came to us and asked us to emulate existing programs locally. Essentially, this is a tight-knit team that is working together specifically on bullet-to-body cases exclusively. And I can tell you that Since the program started a couple of months ago, they have 16 cases that they are currently working on. One of them has already been indicted, one has been referred to the feds, and another is pending in grand jury.
Are they working mostly with victims? Are they working mostly with shooters? And what's different about this than what was being done before?
Through the chair, what makes this different is that this is truly an evidence-based program, in that many of these cases, the victims will not speak or provide any support to the case. So this is very physical evidence intensive, so that we can bring these cases to fruition.
All set? Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0164, authorized an intermunicipal agreement with the Hilton Parma Fire District for the storage and deployment of the Monroe County Hazardous Materials Response Trailer.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0165, approve and adopt the updated 2023 Monroe County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0166, acceptance of a grant from the New York State Canal Corporation for the New York State Canal Corporation Marine Patrol Matching Grant Program.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0168, amend Resolution 351 of 2022 to accept additional funding from the New York State Stop DWI Foundation for DWI High Visibility Engagement Campaign Enforcement, and amend and increase the agreements with 5 municipalities.
Moved by legislator Morris, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0170, authorizing the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to accept the donation of a Percheron thoroughbred cross named Callie from owners Bruce and Katie Ferguson for the Monroe County Sheriff's Mounted Unit.
Moved by legislator Delahanty, seconded by legislator Milne. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral number 23-0176, amend the 2023 operating budget of the Office of the Sheriff to provide adequate staffing for the Police Bureau and establish the Regional Investigative Operations Center by appropriating unassigned fund balance. Amend the 2023 capital budget to increase funding for the project entitled Sheriff's Vehicle Replacement, authorize the creation of 43 sworn and civilian positions, and authorize an interfund transfer.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Colby. Is there any discussion on this? Legislator Hugh-Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Law enforcement plays a role in public safety, but cannot alone create safe, healthy, thriving communities. Questions regarding how many sheriffs are needed, where they should be assigned, and for what purpose should be considered within a broader context and supported with data. The administration is developing a comprehensive plan, an active transportation plan, a climate action plan. These are thoughtful processes that are complete with the collection of data, stakeholder meetings, and community engagement. And as this referral will not address any current crime issues due to the lag in time between recruitment, training, and onboarding and deployment, I move to table this request to substantially increase the Sheriff Department until there is a public safety plan in the same, kind of format and vein as the other plans that we're developing that will take a more comprehensive approach and analysis to what might work.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? That's a table motion is not debatable, so we go to a vote. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote to table. Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
We're going to be tabling the amendment.
Mr. Colby.
No.
Mr. Delahanty.
No.
Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Hugh Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Milne.
No.
Mr. Morris.
No.
Vecchio is excused. Chairman Dondorfer.
No.
2-6. Motion to table fails.
Is there any other discussion on the amendment, on the referral itself? Legislator Hugh Smith, you still have the floor.
So I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department for the time they spent answering questions earlier today. And before I get to the additional questions, just a quick summary. The 2022 budget to the 2023 budget, we've added 38.5 full-time equivalent staff to the Sheriff Department. We increased the the public safety budget by 12.5%. Administration can't project the percent increase in the 24 budget due to this referral, but 90% of the $7 million will be a recurring expense. Increase in violence was a justification for the 11 deputies that we added earlier in the year, which I supported. But we have no evaluation as to whether that's been successful because those folks aren't actually deployed yet due to the lag in time. So where we left off earlier today, the item number 4, my question to you that had been submitted on May 9th was addressing your concerns about staffing and its impact on the time that deputies have to take off. And what I'm requesting is, would you please provide the data, not just the written explanation or the verbal explanation, but the actual data on how many staff are taking their vacation time, because that is important for mental health, whether the overtime that they are performing is mandatory or voluntary.
Through the chair, yes, we will.
Thank you. Part B was asking what the goal of training. I said, how many hours of training would be appropriate for each deputy? Because that was, again, a suggestion as to why we need to increase staffing. What was the goal and what is the current amount being received? And I appreciate the answer that the requirement is that there's 16 hours of refresher training a year, and that you try to do more, up to 56 hours of training, which, that sounds great. What I haven't been provided with, however, is what is actually occurring. So could you please provide the data on how many hours of training is maybe over the last 3 years? Are we able to provide for these deputies?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. Part C, I asked what a proactive detail might entail, and while I understand that responding to a 911 call might be reactive, could you give me a more specific example of what might be considered a proactive detail, since that is the point of these hires?
Through the chair, proactive details are those details that are we plan ahead of time, allow us to move resources and address crime patterns, address those issues that we're facing. For example, traffic safety details in areas that experience a high volume of traffic accidents, injuries, and fatalities. We may schedule a proactive detail that involves certain cars to patrol an area or to enforce traffic safety. We also do proactive community engagement details when we have opportunities, like attend community fairs, forums, things like that, to project tips in the city, those sort of community engagement details. We also have necessity to deal with car larcenies and smash and grab burglaries. Those require proactive details. It may require undercover deputies. It may require positioning of resources ahead of time because we may have information that a crime might occur in a certain location. All of those details are proactive, where we have to assign the resources ahead of time. We have to ask people to work overtime, to schedule themselves, and to come in on their off hours to work those shifts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Number 5, I was looking for clarification on why you cited the statistic that we only have patrol deputies for 1 out of 3,615 residents, when you have noted in your response that you said that the data, let me quote you, that it's from the FBI data, based specifically only using data for the towns and villages where we are the primary law enforcement jurisdiction. And I went to that FBI site that you've quoted, and I cannot find that statistic. So if you could find that specifically, direct me to that. Maybe when we meet in person, I'd appreciate it, because when I look at policescorecard.org, the information is considerably different. I'm happy to provide you with my data. Monroe County, once you removed all the towns and villages that actually have their own police force, the sheriff's office is covering a population of 236,185 people, with the patrol deputy officers of 223 as listed in the 23 budget. That would create 1 officer for every 1,059 people. But I don't know why we wouldn't include all the other higher ranking officers that also have the patrol deputy designation. And if you included all of the officers, of which there are 275, that's 1 officer for every 859 people. So I would appreciate having further conversation about that and what might be appropriate, especially as we might reflect upon what other counties are providing, which are substantially higher ratios. For example, Erie County, it's 1 officer for every 1,607 residents, and Onondaga, 1 for every 1084. Of course, these are counties that would be similar with urban cities. I appreciated the answer to number 7, where I asked about what the response time was for the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and that we have priority 1, which are most urgent calls, and a response time average of 10.5 minutes, and priority 2 of 19.2 minutes. And what I don't know is, how does that compare to other forces or a national average? I did ask for a national average, which you did not provide. I do agree with your response that response time alone would not provide a comprehensive assessment of police effectiveness. Certainly agree with that. So what measures are you using to determine effectiveness?
Through the chair, could you be more specific with your question?
Sure. Let me be specific. In 2022, the budget listed 208 sheriff patrol deputies. The 2023 budget listed 223 sheriff patrol deputies, an increase of 15 patrol deputies. How has this impacted outcomes? How are we measuring the effectiveness of hiring 15 more patrol deputies?
Through the chair, a couple of points in response to that. First is the difference between those years, as we've stated before, has not been realized because that increase, those deputies are still in the academy process and have not had a chance to have an impact on the public safety in our community yet. Second, we take into account a lot of factors when it comes to our quality of service, the assessment, and the satisfaction with the community members. We did a lot of research that was presented in our Executive Order 203 plan several months back, and that became part of our forward-leaning initiative that is encapsulated in some of this. The ability to provide that community engagement, the ability to lessen the caseloads for our investigators, the ability for patrols to be in the right place at the right time. All of that's being taken into account, and it's based upon the data that we have. Could certainly, I would welcome more conversations to get more specific, but I'm not quite sure if I've answered your question completely, but
Thank you, Officer Fowler, I believe. Right. I do welcome some more conversations around that. Thank you.
Do you have anything further, Legislator Hughes-Smith?
I do, unfortunately.
Okay.
Question 9. Well, in question 8, I was trying to understand where cars are patrolling, what their area is, how they spend their time. And I know earlier today you explained that 16 deputies are routinely assigned to the city. Could you please provide, obviously not right this minute, but some data on actually, time spent in the various communities that you serve? I'd like to understand the distribution of the Monroe County Sheriff's time per community. That data you'd be able to provide?
through the chair, we can provide our distribution of resources. Time spent in the community could be very difficult if I understand your question.
That is my question, yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the sheriff. I don't understand what you mean by distribution of resources.
Through the chair, we can certainly provide how many cars are assigned to certain locations at certain times. That won't be consistent at every hour of the day, but we can provide you with that data. What I'm hearing in your question is that you're looking for the amount of time that that deputy spends within their district. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. Let me try to clarify. What I'm trying to understand is that as I understand it, and please feel free to explain it to me, that the Monroe County Sheriff Road Patrol actually patrols roads that are in communities that do not have their own police force.
That's correct.
Correct. So, yep.
The city of Rochester is currently the only one that receives dedicated patrol resources. The rest are on an as-needed basis and as requested by those jurisdictions.
Thank you. So what I was trying to understand then is how many cars on patrol would be in each community on average, say in a 24-hour period, are they? In Gates, who has their own police force, one car every 24 hours? Or how many calls are they, how many times are they called in annually to those different jurisdictions?
I don't,
We're getting off into the weeds and we're micromanaging an elected official that's elected to deploy the police as he sees needed. And so I would like the sheriff, I really would not think this question is
Mr. Chairman, I have the floor and I have a right to
call
ask
point of order.
questions.
I'm asking for a point of order then.
he asked for a point of order, and he's asking if you're getting a little bit too far in the weeds. I'm going to uphold the point of order because I believe that it would be next to impossible, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, to give you a statistical data on how many times they get called into a suburb that has their own police department, like the town of Gates or Greece, with the fact that he has already said it is on an as-needed basis, and it's impossible to determine what an as-needed basis is unless it's happening at that time.
So I'm supposed to believe
I-
that the sheriff's office does not keep records on when they show up in Brighton. That's what I'm asking. In the last year, how many times has the Monroe County Sheriff's Office been called into Brighton, Pittsford, Penfield, Webster?
You ruled on my point of order. Can we move on to a different
We'll move on to the
question?
next question.
I don't understand how I'm supposed to evaluate the effectiveness of this request if we're denied the basic information as to the performance and need of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Mr. Chairman, if she's not willing to move on to another question, I'll call the question to vote on it.
Legislator Hugh Smith, would you like to move on to another question?
I would love to move on to another question. Thank you,
As
sir.
long as it's pertained to the discussion.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Sheriff's Office.
Control of the situation, then I'd like for him to lead this, please.
Thank you.
In sidebars.
Thank you. Legislator Hugh Smith, your next question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, would you please provide the current vacancy data as requested previously for the various divisions? Sheriff Administration, jail, road.
Again,
court,
I'm gonna say that the questions that are here today are based on this particular referral, which is referring to the road patrol and the civilian deputies that are responsible for that. I do understand that the jail and the courts is important. However, we're asking questions pertaining specifically on this, please.
Okay, that would be fine. Then would you please provide me with the vacancies for the road patrol?
We will provide that data to you.
I will continue to wait for it. In regards to the Regional Investigative Operations Center, will you be requesting a new building?
Through the chair, we're looking at a lease process of an existing facility.
Does this entity require new equipment?
Through the chair, yes, it does.
Can you direct me to where in the referral it notes how much is going towards equipment?
Through the chair, there's not an itemized list in the referral.
The people working in the center, will these be current employees or new hires?
Through the chair, these are current employees.
Okay, I yield the floor. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Chair to the administration. ROCTAC is a part of this proposal. There's several organizations that are listed on there. What was the process to asking an organization to join? Are they being approached by letter? Are they being approached in person? And what are they being explained to about terrorism? Is it about hate crimes? What is the messaging to the community when they're asked?
Through the chair, selection for participation in ROCTAC is really open. We're searching for more participation from all avenues of the community. It's based upon need, interest. We have to get those participants that are interested in this. But it's really open. It's not a restrictive process. It really involves the entire community. However, there does have to be some limitations, so there is a basis of need that's taken into account.
What are those limitations?
Through the chair, merely the size of the organization. It can't be never ending.
Finding something? Are they just saying, go ahead and put
Through the chair, each participant signs an MOU to participate in ROCTAC, and they go through training. They have to complete that training before they can participate. And most often, we are approached. They approach us.
Write a copy of the MOU.
Through the chair, yes, we can.
Next question through the chair is, the department works in different communities, different suburbs, some in the city, and we heard today not in some of the communities where they already have their own police force. It's only every once in a while. So do you have the information for how many sheriff's cars are in Greece or on a given day on average?
Through the chair, no. Through the chair, I'd have to research whether or not we're even capable of gathering that data. It's a very vague request.
Chair, do you keep a record of what the Monroe County Sheriff Road Patrols are doing on a daily basis?
Through the chair, yes, we do.
Would it be safe to say that you would know if the sheriffs had been in yesterday or a week from yesterday?
Through the chair, if a specific request like that, yes, we could absolutely research that.
Very respectfully, would you be willing to provide data on average where the sheriffs are on any given day and how many cars are in each suburb and in the city?
Through the chair, we will absolutely research that. It could take quite a while to compile.
We were recently asked to lift the residency requirements for road patrol. We were told that there were four vacancies out of over 200 positions. Had there been any conversations anywhere about increasing the sheriff by 40 positions a month after being asked to lift those residency requirements? Had that come up at all?
Through the chair, could you repeat the question?
About a month ago, we were asked to lift the residency requirements for the road patrol. We were told that it was because there were 4 vacancies out of over 200 positions. At that point, had there been any conversations anywhere about potentially adding more sheriff's positions?
Yes, sir. What's your point of order?
Again, I'm failing to see where this is germane to the referral that we have before us.
Germane to the referral because I'm asking through the chair if we were planning on increasing the sheriff's road patrol by 40 positions when we were asked to lift the residency requirements and told that it was because there were 4 vacancies.
I don't think it's relevant whether or not there was 4 at the time or 40 at the time. If we voted to release the residency restriction, it has, it's no real effect on this referral right here.
Through the chair, it's relevant because I represent thousands of people in this honorable body, and we would like to know if there was talk of adding. more
Again,
road
Mr.
patrol-
Chairman, my point of order
I-
has been sustained.
I sustain your point of order. I don't think that it's relevant whether or not they were speaking of this referral, talking about potentially adding 40 new deputies or not when they were lifting up the residency requirements. I don't think it has anything to do with one or the other, and even if it does or doesn't, it's irrelevant at this point. Next question, please.
This
Can you please address through the chair, please?
chair coming out of the fund balance. How much remains in the fund balance after we spend this on increasing?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, if you could give us a moment, I believe that information was contained in an email that we sent to both caucuses. Let us find that, please. Through you, Mr. Chairman, let me read the response email that we sent to both caucuses when this question was asked. The 2021 audited financial statement, the last set of standard statements published, reported 31.1 million of unassigned fund balance. This referral, the research strategy and development team referral, and the Visit Rochester referral would consume 8.2 million of that balance in aggregate, leaving a remaining balance of $22.9 million.
The chair, would it be fair to say that of that $22 million, we could put $1 million towards an RG&E feasibility study to replace RG&E with computer
Okay,
power?
yep, that's not germane. That's not germane to this. Next question. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none,
Apologies.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have a rule, and we've been lenient tonight because I know there was a lot of questions, but a legislator only has 5 minutes of speaking time, and we were lenient. I know that some of the time used by her was because the sheriff took time returning, so I didn't say that, but I do believe she has used up her time limit.
Okay, thank you. I will give you one last question, so pick your most important and
Sure, okay. I move to amend this referral to add the text currently to add an additional public hearing with a minimum of 7 days public notice.
so I'll save you some time here. Amendments are out of order in committees. You'll need to present that during the full legislative meeting when the full resolution is in front of us.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, with there being no other questions, let's go to a roll call vote. Go ahead. One more question, go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, remarks, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So we heard from a lot of folks tonight. What we heard from everyone, regardless of which side of the issue they were on, is that they don't feel safe. There's a major shift going on in society today around how we look at safety. We know better, and when we know better, we should do better. I represent one of the poorest districts in this county. When I go door to door to my constituents, there's a lot of different opinions on what to do about police, but no one has asked me for more police. Folks have asked for police to be from the community that they live in. They have asked for more accountability for police. They have asked for more programs for kids, for better jobs, for increased mental health care. They've asked for better reentry services. They've asked for the garbage to be picked up off the streets that somehow ends up picked up in other neighborhoods, but not in ours. You know, everyone in this room knows, regardless of where they're going to fall on this, that resources contribute to public safety. I have not yet fully resourced my community. Should not be relying on police when people don't have to try nonviolent alternatives first. Because what's happening is people are getting incarcerated and there's generational trauma that is contributing to poverty after poverty after poverty, and that increases crime. I represent one of the most difficult districts. Not something that folks are asking me for. I have been asked by hundreds of people for an RG&E implementation study, which is an anti-poverty initiative. Just about a month ago, we voted to lift residency requirements for Sheriff Road Patrol. It only applies to surrounding counties. Surrounding counties that we would be recruiting from are all less racially diverse than our county is. Suburbs surrounding the district that I represent are less racially diverse than that. Having police that are from the communities that they police, I'm deeply concerned about potentially hiring 40 new Sheriff's Road Patrol from outside Monroe County. That is not something that my constituents support. Even my constituents that think police are a part of the solution don't support police coming in from out of the community to police. Know that that's not working in District 25. I will be voting no, no surprise.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to a roll call vote.
Mr. Burgess. Roll call vote, no, to pass the referral.
Yep, we're on the vote to pass the referral.
Mr. Colby.
Yes.
Mr. Delahanty.
Yes.
Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Hugh Smith. Mr. Milne.
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Ms. Vecchio is excused. Chairman Dondorfer.
Yes.
6-2, referral passes.
Next item, please.
Referral number 23-0177, authorized grant contracts and appropriation transfers pursuant to the American Rescue Plan Act.
Moved by legislator Colby, seconded by legislator Morris. Is there any discussion on this? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the selection panel, including legislator Sean McCabe and state, in the state. There's excitement about being able to help our public safety agencies, including EMS and fire, who missed out on previous rounds of this funding. I'd like to thank the group that put this together.
Great, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, the May 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Public Safety Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Public Safety Committee will be held on Tuesday, June 27th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m.